time. Can you hear me, everyone? How's it going? We are here right on time. Woo! Hello. How's it going, everyone? Yeah, I think we got it all in here. All right. Good, everyone. How's it going? It is your host, conductor, and founder of this wild ride, Demetrius VR. How's it going, everyone? Oh man, the comments are just going crazy right now. I'm so glad. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna trying to get more back into the harmonic. I've been playing it for years, and then I've been out for like a while. But here we are. I think we've had a good, productive week, and so we've gotten a bad. Well, rest in peace for anybody with headphones on. I'm sorry about that. Should have given out a warning, but hey, we're here. We're loud. We're on board, so this is good, guys. We're good. Got shirt ready, muscles pumped, hydrated, caffeinated, and maybe a little bit of some brews on the side too, because we got a lot to go into, guys. We got a lot to go into. We're gonna be going after Brightline West. We're gonna be going the election, okay? And my opinions on it, again, this is why I'm not wearing any other Brightline shirt, anything like that. This is just my opinion, my analysis on the last 4 years of this current administration and what we have to look forward to, depending on whichever administration wins, but we all know who's going to win. I think we know at this point. You guys know my politics, so it's no surprise there if you've been a long time follower of this channel. But hey, we accept everybody as long as you are on board and willing to go ahead and push for high-speed rail and to get this country and make America's trains great again, which for some reason I cannot find my hat, and I do not know where it is. I gotta go look for it. Let's see, how's it going, everyone? Perfect. How's it going, Ashkar? Hello, Greg. Yes, I did see the news on Brightline West today, which we will be going over. So we're going to be going over all of that. Let me see. Some guys have asked about when the personal channel was coming up, the second channel. And I will be coming up a video next week. If you guys are a Patreon, I was showing a little bit about what's going on with the next channel, the second channel, which is going to be like, some more video games, personal stuff, and all that type of things. But, again, economics, talking about that. But, the whole part of having the second channel is to go ahead and expand and to give more of a view of what's going on and what I believe, as well as to teach the next generation about, economics and some other trains of thought. No pun intended. Which, speaking of, yes, we will be talking about Tampa today, too. Yes, Toontown Pirate. All right, so we got 54 people online right now. That is great. So far, everybody, this is good. So let's get right into it. But before we do that, I need you guys, there's a little poll here. Now, get your fingers ready on the numpad, as I'm going to try to get some brews over here that I've been saving up. Okay, because I've been sober for when I mean sober, I usually have like a drink like every 2 days or 3 days or so like that. And again, I'm not a drunk or anything like that. I would rather have a soda sometimes, but we got this Oktoberfest from Sun King Brewery that's local over here in Indianapolis. Good old Indy. So since October is over, we've got one more left, so give a 1 if you want that. There's also for you guys up in Tampa or down in Tampa. I gotta get my bearings straight that I'm not in Miami anymore. I'm up north, so I gotta know that Tampa is now down south. Because when you're in Miami, everything is up north. Everything is up there. So we got some High Ally for those in Cigar City. So that's number 2, and then number 3 we got this Indiana Pale Ale. It's not an India Pale Ale, it's an Indiana Pale Ale, which I'm not a big fan of IPAs. It's like half of them just taste terrible. They're made by someone's basement in bathtub somewhere half the time. And I'm a dark beer guy. That's me. But this got my eye. Okay, people say don't judge a book by its cover, but man, this looks freaking awesome, man. This is just, look at that. That is just freaking crazy. So that's 3. So let's see, we got a 1, we got a 2, and we got a 3. Please don't give me a 3 to make me, to go up. But let me see what we got over here. Well, let's go. Type it in right now. What do you guys want? 1, 2, or 3? Looks like people are typing 3. 3. Going once, going to. All right, guys. All right, we're going to do 3. I guess you guys want me to go ahead and really get into it. Yeah, this is pretty cool, this laser snake. I did have it. You got to let it, cut down a little bit. But out of the IPAs, I think this is one of the better tasting IPAs. Not saying much, but whoever is Three Floyds, I think it's up in Fort Wayne. I believe that's where they are. Yeah, Munster, Indiana, not Munster, Indiana. All right, so let's go ahead and have a crack at that. All right. I'm sorry, Chicago Rail fan, that you're underage. I do think the drinking laws in the U.S. are just ridiculous. When we were over in Japan and Tokyo, I mean, you can go ahead and just get a beer from a vending machine and just walk around and drink, and nobody's killing each other. Nobody's, going ahead and drunk driving or anything like that. But yeah, it is. I do think so, Holly. It depends on the IPA. They're kind of, most of them are pretty bad, but that's the reason why, because everybody can just easily make them and, just put the hops in their freaking bathtub and make them. But cheers, everyone. Cheers to a good year and hopefully God's will tomorrow in the election, and let's just hope for some peace no matter which way it goes, because that's the thing. I've been worried about that. It's just more of the violence of what's going on, and I was listening to re-listening to the Joe Rogan and Alex Jones podcast where he's going about the 79 days of hell. It's going to be 79 days of hell right after the election, and it's not going to stop until Inauguration Day. You know how Alex Jones is. I like the guy. I mean, I really do. But let's say cheers. It's all right. It's all right. For an IPA, excuse me, it's all right. All right. Let's get into this, guys. We are not going to go ahead and delay this anymore. Let's get moving. So I'm sure you've heard about this, about what's going on in Las Vegas. Brightline West. That's what we're going to call it. And you see this beautiful Siemens Valero in green. I don't know if that's what it's going to look like in the final. But good thing it's not a Virgin no more. Good thing it is not Virgin anymore. So let's go into this, because this is going to be crazy. 40,000 construction jobs coming out of this, over 1,000 permanent jobs, and it's going to be an economic income of $9 billion, generate $1 billion in tax revenue. That's on top. The cost of this project is going to be about $8 billion or so. But this was released about last week, I believe Thursday or Friday. Brightline went ahead and showed it off in a press release that they are going to go ahead and build this year. Again, if you guys have ready, spoiler alert, we know what's happening, but just let it go and we'll get into that. But first, some news that came up today. This is pretty funny. We'll go more into Brightline West, but first, a whale of a tale over in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. This is pretty crazy, guys. I don't know if you've heard about this today, but a metro train was saved by a whale. I'm pretty sure Pierce Bronson is happy that his whale project is working out real well here, if you guys know what I mean. But this is pretty crazy. Let's see if this video will play. So, yeah, there was a train. That was, they're not saying anything here, but it was derailed. Went a little bit too fast, and it was saved. Saved by this tale right here. This is just insane. I mean, who would have thought that this would have happened? So many people's lives are in debt to this whale. It is just a tall tale that conductor is going to be saying for a long time. It's just insane. So an elevated train ran past the end of the tracks in the Dutch city of Rotterdam, but instead of plunging 10 meters to the ground, that would have been awful. I mean, could you imagine that, guys? It came to a rest delicately on top of the statue of a whale's tail. The conductor emerged shocked but unharmed, and there were no passengers on board. The statue, coincidentally called Saved by a Whale's Tail. I think that's just going to be a national monument now. That's just going to be saved right there. It has not been intended to save a train, but, well, as we've seen here, it actually is saving a train. That is just incredible. I don't know that Aquaman was a whale. That's kind of funny. 10 meters is about 30 feet. If you put it times 3, that's about what it is. Yards, meters are about the same. So yeah, that's about a 2 foot. I'm sorry, not 2 foot drop. 2-story drop, about, more or less, guys. That is just incredible that this was not more like a 3-story drop, 2.5-story drop. Okay. The station is the final stop on the metro line, as we could see. The suspended tram card could be seen by passengers in the street below. It created such a stir locally that authorities urged sightseers to stay away, adding that coronavirus. The coof is still in force. Don't worry about the train that could fall over, but the coof. You could catch the coof from the whales. It's going to spread and coof all over everybody. But don't worry. The coof, about this train smashing on people just coming down. Because, I don't know how much concrete and rebar is in that. If there's any steel rebar, it probably is. Maybe some pole that goes over there or whatnot. But I don't know how much of it is in there. But that's just crazy. This is just stupid that we're still in this crap. And I'm sorry, guys. This is just insane. Even so, some 50 people were at the scene as engineers try to work out how to stabilize and then remove the train amid strengthening winds. Team of experts is investigating how it can make it safe and get to the ground. So nobody knows how the heck they're getting this down. It's tricky to rock a rhyme. The architect who designed the sculpture, Martin Strues, told Dutch broadcaster RTL he was pleased that it will likely save the life of the driver. Well, I guess I guess it was only the driver that was in there. I don't know. I guess, was there anybody else in there? Authorities launched an investigation into how the train could plow through the barrier at the end of the rail track. So, guys, well, that's pretty crazy. That was a fantastic save there by the whale. Saved the whales, and the whales have saved the rails. That actually rhymed. I'm surprised. Now, let's get into the election here. Before I start, I think you can kind of see in the background here who I already support and whatnot. But realistically, this is where I see the election going. So I already am predicting that, and this is just by honest science and by what it is. 80% of incumbents usually win, right? And Donald Trump has had a massive amount of enthusiasm behind him. There is just absolutely no way that I see Biden winning this unless something else comes up. And again, I'm not going to go too much into this because this is a real channel. But speaking of that, what I do think is this. I think the last 4 years, and I've talked to a lot of people, both on the left and on the right, and they have agreed that the last 4 years have been very, very good for privatized passenger rail systems and passenger rail in general to a point, okay? Amtrak has been doing a little bit better, and Amtrak was going to have its best year on record in 2020 until something came up. We know what that is. But this is what I think it's going to end on. I think he's going to sweep the Midwest. Sans Illinois, maybe not Minnesota. It could end up exactly like it did back in 2016. I do not see Biden winning at all. Again, if you guys support Biden, hey, that's your thing. You know what I mean. And the polls have lied. Okay, we know that the polls have completely, absolutely, anybody can go ahead and concur with this. In 2016, when the Huffington Post said, Hillary Clinton is going to have a 99.3% chance or something like that, something ridiculous, of winning the election, and Trump has absolutely no chance. And Nate Garbage, or Nate Silver, as we say, I think, he thought that there's no way that he's going to be able to win, and then he had his that terrible face after the end. That was just ridiculous. But this is where I think it's going to win, and I do think this is for the best. Florida has been having a fantastic time. I think out of all the states, funny enough, the one that I left, Florida, has been having the best time with this, and in terms of infrastructure. Brightline has been going ahead and pushing the boundaries, and they've been the big winner for the last 4 years. Even this year, they've been the biggest winner in terms of construction and in terms of news, in terms of good news too, because they've had good news. In terms of getting rid of Richard Branson, which there's going to be a lot of bad news coming out on Richard Branson. There already has been, but you guys know what I'm talking about. If you've seen a couple of islands and what happens and transpires in those islands, again, there's a lot going on. But in terms of the election and in terms of Brightline has had a fantastic several years in terms of construction, in terms of revenue, in terms of getting their passenger system up and running, and in terms of positive, great news for them that is going on and making them the star of infrastructure for the rest of the United States. Because everybody's looking at Brightline. And if Brightline succeeds, everybody else is going to succeed. I do agree with that. I mean, if anybody thinks that there's another way, if anybody thinks differently, that Biden would be better for rail. And again, we had Biden before. We had him in the Obama administration. There wasn't really much coming out of the Obama administration. I was sorely disappointed, and a lot of people that I knew who are diehard Democrats and infrastructure supporters were very, very disappointed by how the Obama administration, how they handled bringing up high-speed rail and the amount of funding that they gave for this. I really don't think it was great. Someone's asking, do you think rail will advance under Trump? That's from Ashkar. I really do think it's been advancing very well so far. Florida has been doing great. And again, Florida is under a Republican control right now. They have a Republican House and Senate, and they have a Republican governor under Ron DeSantis. They've been doing very well. Brightline has been pushing ahead into Orlando. They've been having more construction despite 2020, the age of the apocalypse over here, and everything else has been going on, and pushing even into California and Nevada. I really do think they're going to do well. Actually, I do want to do one more thing. There we go. That's where I think it's going to go. I don't know. Except for long distance trains. Again, there have been winners and losers. I think all in all, in the last 4 years in this administration, it has been better for infrastructure. And the main reason why I think it's been the best for infrastructure is the deregulation that has been happening. I know somebody in the comments has mentioned it. The deregulation that has been happening to make sure that companies who want to invest in infrastructure, who want to invest and create infrastructure projects, don't have to go through so much red tape. And this is just not just for rails, but for everything else, including roads, because we do need better roads, guys. As much as they've been overbuilt here in the United States, they're crumbling. Okay, they are crumbling because they're not projected. They were never projected to take this amount of people in the United States. B, the way that they were built and the places they were mapped out to have not worked out well. Induced traffic has been an absolute nightmare. Induced demand has been an absolute nightmare in metro areas, especially in overbuilt metro areas like Los Angeles, San Francisco, Miami, New York, Chicago. It's been a nightmare. So again, these regulations, cutting red tape, making sure that there's proper channels for P3, which is private-public partnership programs, have been a godsend for rail projects everywhere, including in Texas too. Okay, with the Texas high-speed rail, Texas Central Railway has been doing pretty well with this. So that's my take, and I really do think it'd be better. I do not see Biden winning, so I mean, you can bet on that if you want. There's some good odds if you're betting on Trump. The same odds, actually, a little bit worse than they were in 2016 because it was like 1 to 3 in 2016, and now it's like 1 to 2.5 for Trump. So if you'd bet back in 2016, if you bet $1,000, you would have gotten $3,000. Now, if you bet $1,000 now, you'll probably get $2,500. In the next 2 days or so. I don't know how this is going to go on in terms of the violence afterwards, but do expect, I don't think we're going into a civil war situation. I do expect skirmishes though. That's what I do expect. But that's just my take. If you guys think something differently, and you have, if you have any, you have any sources to it, you have advice to it, go ahead and, put it in the comments. I respect everybody's opinion, as long as we're not putting each other in gulags or anything like that, that's perfectly fine. Because if you try to put me in a gulag, I will shoot you. I think anybody would, right? YouTube, don't kill me now, please. All right, so let's keep going on over here. On forward we go. So work on Brightline expected in 2020. Now, you guys know the spoiler alert, what's going on over here. So everybody was saying that they were going to start construction in the fourth quarter this year on Brightline in 2020 over in Brightline West. And they were going to start over in Nevada and parts of California. Well, first they were going to start in Nevada. That's where it's going to be. And they put it in 6 different sections or whatnot. And this is where you see, again, the project is going to be an $8 billion project. And the reason why, again, these are full electric 200-mile-an-hour bullet trains, which will be the fastest in the United States. That is going to be insane. The fastest trains in the United States. I really do think this is great. Someone's asking over here, how will maglev benefit the U.S.? That's from Juan Zaninga. I really do think maglev is the future. Maglev should be built more in the United States. However, a lot of politicians are very skittish on maglev because there hasn't been a maglev project over here. So if there's more private investment from maglev projects and private investment into areas that are more friendly to it, more open to having that, like in Orlando, which should have had it. It should have had it, and I will forever be salty about that decision. And also in Miami too. I'm more salty about that. Let's be honest. I am very, very salty about that, and I should get a drink too in order to calm myself down before I have a panic attack about it. But I really do think maglev should be pushed more in this country. And of course, we have the Northeast maglev going on to connect the first phase between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, about 18 miles, if they can get that moving. I haven't seen any more news on that as of late. I should go ahead and keep on track on that with what's going on. So let's go to the Brightline West website. So yes, there is a Brightline West website that has been up for about the last several days. So let's learn more about this. And again, there's several different sectors that are going on and going into this. So one are fully electric, zero-emission trains will reach speeds of up to 200 miles per hour. This is a 260-mile high-speed rail system designed to take cars off the road and offer millions of travelers an eco-friendly way to travel between Los Angeles, one of the country's largest cities, and Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. There's one thing I don't agree with there, the entertainment capital of the world. Maybe Orlando, but then again, that's the fun capital of the world. I guess entertainment, where you sit down, get drunk and lose all your money and watch Elvis Presley impersonators. Yeah, I guess so. And then you wake up the next morning and find out you married a hooker and you owe money to a cocaine drug lord. Not spoiling the Hangover for anybody if you guys haven't seen it, but that's what it is. Brightline if anybody does agree, I do think Las Vegas is way better of a city to be in than Los Angeles. You got a heck of a lot more freedom in Nevada, let's be honest. Brightline Holdings develops and operates high-speed passenger rail systems in the United States. Its first passenger rail system, Brightline Florida, is a 235-mile service connecting Miami and Orlando. It operates between Miami and West Palm Beach, with the Orlando extension opening in the second half of 2022. I do think this is a feasible plan for them to get that open by 2022. If you guys have been seeing, I've been getting the Roaming Rail Fan. That's a very good channel in terms of getting updates on the construction of Brightline. I believe he lives up there, and that's why he's able to get so much footage and whatnot. I do want to bring him onto the show one time and see if we can go ahead and interview him and get a little bit more of what's going on. I do really want to get that. Renell Reed is asking when Brightline restarts their service. I honestly did think, and I will take responsibility for saying this, I did think they were going to go ahead and start in October. I was absolutely dead wrong about that. They may start later on. I don't know. They may start in December. That's my next guess. Okay, so let's say December. I don't know. Again, a lot of things have happened. They're just watching right now to see. And I did hear from somebody in Brightline that they were looking to start back up in October, but that was they told me back in June, so that's what I was going on. So again, it could be December. That would make sense. Depends. Really, I mean, they have a lot of time to. Yeah, exactly what Eric said. They have a lot of time to go ahead and restart back over in Miami-Dade. If they can wait until Orlando gets built up and have a really grand restart to it, but I think even before then, this whole coof BS will blow over and we'll be back to where we are. So let's look at this over here. Again, this map is confusing. I don't know why they decided to go with a map where north is heading to where east usually is in a cardinal, but hey, it's what it is, So they're looking to start. They were looking to start. Spoiler alert: they were looking to start the south section over here, which is 21 miles long. This segment in the fourth quarter of 2020, the middle section in the second quarter of 2021, and the north section the second quarter of 2021 concurrently as well. So they would be moving those forward perpendicularly. Well, at the same time, 35 miles. track will run in Nevada along the I-15 right-of-way with no at-grade crossings from State Line to the Brightline West station on the south end of the Las Vegas Strip. So it's going to be right there over to the Las Vegas Strip. If we can go ahead and look into that. So there we are. There's Gene. There's Sloan. And there's right here the Brightline station, West Station, right over there. And that's Las Vegas. That's the Las Vegas Strip right over here, Las Vegas Boulevard. I've never been to Las Vegas. It would be great to go ahead and, see that and see what's going on over there. But, let's see what happens. Definitely, and I did say this earlier today on the Patreon video, I will be reaching out to Brightline and Brightline West and seeing, exactly what they're doing and seeing if we can get somebody on the show. This is weird for some reason. If you select language over here, so there's a little thing you can select language, and for some reason they have Filipino and Spanish. I don't know why they would have Tagalog in Spanish. Is it Tagalog? I believe it is Tagalog for Filipino. I don't know why Filipino. I would understand Spanish. I mean, half that area is basically, people who speak Spanish anyway over in California. I don't get why Filipino, though, unless there's maybe some Filipino investors that are interested in this. That probably would be a reason why. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, that's weird. I just found that weird, though. California construction. Also being constructed around the same time, south of the fourth quarter of 2020, second quarter of 2021 for the middle, and then the north segment would also be in the second quarter of 2021. So that's pretty cool if they can get that moving on. But you guys can see there's a project fact sheet over here, and I'll go ahead and link this in the comments if you guys want to go ahead and peruse around the website. But I basically just went through everything over here on the website. Oh, that's cool, Ivan. You went to see Jeff Dunham. I love Jeff Dunham. I think those puppets are funny. I really do. Was it Ahmed the terrorist? That was funny. Silence! I do you. I like that one. But here's some. Let's go to the FAQ, guys. Let's go to the FAQ, shall we? What do you guys think? That's probably why. Tagalog is the third largest language by speakers in California. That's according to Travels of Munch. Not quite sure how you'd pronounce that or how you want to pronounce that. Interesting. So there's a big Filipino population over in California. Okay, thank you for clarifying to me. Thank you. So when will Brightline West open for service? They're looking at 2024. That's what they were looking at. How fast is a train? 200 miles per hour. Where will the stations be located? So it will be located. The first one in Las Vegas will be in Las Vegas. However, for the other one over, let me just read it. Our station will be located in Las Vegas, just east of the I-15 between Blue Diamond and Warm Spring Roads, along Las Vegas Boulevard, and Victor Valley, along I-15 and Dale Evans Parkway for our high desert segment. Our Rancho Cucamonga station will be adjacent to the existing Rancho Cucamonga Metrolink station, and the LA Basement segment is along the existing Metrolink corridor, specifically the San Bernardino line between the existing Rancho Cucamonga station and the Los Angeles Union station. The vehicle maintenance facility will be located adjacent to the Victor Valley station. How many people can the train accommodate? Trains can accommodate up to 600 people, but can be coupled for periods of peak demand, bringing total capacity per departure to up to 1,200 seats. That is crazy. That's a lot of people. The trains are expected to run every 45 minutes, providing flexibility to passengers and the preferred departure and arrival times. So 1,200 seats. That's about as much as a Shinkansen over in Japan if they get that to the coupled peak demand. 600 people is pretty good. So that's like what? That's like about 3 737s right there. That's pretty crazy. What amenities will the train have? Strippers? No. I'm joking, guys. They won't have strippers. Maybe once they cross the Nevada line, they pop out of the they pop out of the luggage sacks and just come out there. Brightline West expects the service to be used by a diverse mix of leisure and business travelers. Trains will depart and arrive at modern state-of-the-art station, and all trains will be equipped with free high-speed Wi-Fi connections. Passengers can also enjoy a variety of food and beverage options, both during their trip and at the station. So I do gotta say, guys, I was very impressed by the Wi-Fi on Brightline. It was easy to get onto. They only had one little sign-on thing, which I do think there should be no, if you're going on Wi-Fi that is in a public area or on a train or something like that, don't force me to go ahead and sign in. Just let me on. I got it. Yes, you don't want me going ahead and talking to people I shouldn't be online, or, perusing things I shouldn't be online. I got that. That's understood. Put the terms of service somewhere else. I got that. Don't make me agree to it. I got it. I understand. I agree to it when I go ahead and sign on. Put that somewhere on the website. Passengers can also avoid travel time to the airport security, and sitting in commuter traffic. That's the big one. This is a big winner right over here. If you can just be able to just go on and get away. They do need to, again, they are looking to go ahead and have a better connection over to the LA metro station with, with having the Metrolink connected over to there. If they can be able to go ahead and connect it all the way down over to LA, that would be a big winner. How will Brightline West train line impact the environment? It will be the greenest form of travel. We already know that. It's electric. We'll remove 3 million cars annually from the road, and that's about 400,000 tons of carbon emissions. Our trains are all electric and will be zero emissions. So that's a lot of carbon monoxide taken out. A lot of dirty old cars that are clogging up the highways. Train will be fully ADA compliant, as we've seen over in Brightline. How will the tracks interact with the I-15? So they will be running within the I-15 right-of-way, primarily the median of I-15. And again, it's a lot easier to build over in the western part of the United States. Much of that land is public land. So getting that available for you in order to go ahead and build infrastructure projects is a lot easier than, let's say, the eastern border. And that's why Brightline was able to do what they were able to do in the Florida East Coast. FEC had the right-of-way. They've had it for over 100 years. And they've had it at one point. They did have it quad-tracked in some areas, double-tracked for most of it. So it was a lot easier to go ahead, and they already owned that right-of-way, about 100 feet wide. So they said, okay, let's go ahead and just build more tracks. Let's upgrade the existing trackage, and we can go ahead and build stations and be able to run this along with our current freight rail traffic. So that worked out very well. All the stars aligned on that project, and that's why Brightline is where it is. Okay, if it was not for all that happening, we would not have Brightline, and it would probably be very dark for the world of high-speed rail in the United States. Seems like they will be starting soon. So anybody in the California, Nevada area, if you're looking for a job, hopefully soon, they're ramping up hiring for construction-related positions now. We're expecting to hire for service positions as construction concludes. And we set an opening date. Please check back as we get closer. Are you expecting ridership to be, they say, over 11 million one-way trips upon stabilization, which represents a 22% market share of the total travel market between Southern California and Las Vegas. That'll be pretty good. And again, it's going to be a little bit more lopsided to cars here in the United States in terms of anything until they can get that going. It's not like, and again, the other reason why it's a lot harder in some other countries, let's say Germany and Japan, to go ahead and own a car. It is a lot harder, okay? For better or for worse. It is a lot harder to own a car, to buy a car, and to maintain a car in those areas, depending on where you live. And that makes it, more of an option for people, a much more lucrative option for people to not own a car and go ahead and use transportation in that area. So use public or rail transportation, because a lot of it is owned by private enterprises over in Japan, but it's a lot more accessible for people to go ahead and use it. So they don't really need to own a car. In the United States, car ownership has become a thing, for better or for worse. But this is pretty good. 22% market share. If they can even do that, that's very good. Even 20%. That is a lot, because there is a lot of commuter traffic between Las Vegas and LA, between cars and between airlines. It's probably going to take a lot more of airline market share away. That's mostly what it's going to go to. So expect Southwest and expect our similar players to come out and go ahead and try to lobby against this project. This will be happening. I know it will be happening. And then before we get to our spoiler, Brightline is revealing a new tie line. So for those of you in Tampa, there are details for a Tampa connection, which, by the way, guys, we'll get into it later. So they pushed back the starting date of the Tampa connection to Orlando as it prepares to make a Disney station more of a priority. So Brightline is pushing back a little bit more on where they're putting the Tampa station. They're focusing right now on Orlando and the Disney station. The Disney station is a big, big deal to Brightline. So they got that started when they were Virgin Trains USA, but they've kept with it. And that's a good thing because Disney gets a lot of tourists from the Orlando International Airport station over there. So if they can put them on Brightline and bring them over to Disney, that's a lot of people. Not only that, now you have a lot of more commuters, a lot more people who are going to go ahead and take either day trips from South Florida, or they'll take 2-day trips and maybe stay in the hotel area or whatnot. They'll take an Uber to a hotel or something like that, or maybe rent a car at Disney. Who knows? There's a whole lot of ways they can do it. That will go ahead. Maybe they'll take. Probably should be putting that in there. Go ahead and rent a car from something and get that there. But it's pretty crazy. The amount of people from South Florida who'll be going and taking this that I've heard from. Not only that I've heard from, I'm not gonna just go ahead and just take from my own personal analogies, but also go ahead and really say that there are a lot of people. If you take a poll or survey in South Florida, that will take Brightline and go ahead and take a day trip over to Disney World and come back the same day. That's going to be pretty epic. Brightline is in the process of finalizing the conceptual design for the Orlando to Tampa route. The plan is now to start work in 2022 rather than 2021 for the route and station build-out. And I think that makes sense. Once they get to Orlando, once they settle down on that, then they can go ahead and move forward and build and construct over to Tampa. When the Tampa connection and station come to fruition, it will create a massive economic impact, and Tampa will finally have rail as mass transit. And again, having that connection there just between Tampa and Orlando alone. If you guys remember the 2009 Florida High-Speed Rail project, the first proposal that was done, they were going to first start out between Tampa and Orlando. And again, we all know the story about what happened and why it fizzled out, and etc. I'm not going to get into it. There's a lot of videos you can check on the channel about why and what happened. It's one of the first Brightline videos that we did about it if you want to look into that. But having that connection between Tampa and Orlando, which is about an hour and a half away, and I have driven it, so it'll be a lot easier for people to get in between those two areas and facilitate a lot more travel, a lot more business, and a lot more people to be able to go ahead and choose the option and say, hey, I don't want to drive there. I want to go ahead and take a train over there and, maybe go to Disney World or something. So you have a lot more now commuters and people with annual passes or seasonal passes go to Disney World. So Disney is getting a lot from this. Hopefully if Disney can get its act together and stop messing up Star Wars, that would be nice. If the agreement with Sunrail is approved, Brightline's train would travel from Orlando International Airport using an Orlando Utilities Commission rail spur, existing Sunrail tracks, and then travel on State Road 417 to the Disney World area. It would use Interstate 4 to connect to Tampa. Potential stations include a 14-acre site that was previously targeted for Tampa Bay Rays Stadium, the Gasworks site, and Tampa Park Apartments. So I was able to go ahead and get some footage. Let me see, where's my little drone over here? Here we are. So I was able to go ahead and take this little guy over here and get some footage of where the stations are over in Tampa, as well as some footage of the Tampa Union Station as well, which you'll see as well coming up this week. So that's going to be coming up this week too. Let's check over in the comments over here. I agree, Disney has been treating Star Wars like garbage. I don't know how this George Lucas Veil of the Force thing is going to work out. I don't really suspect it's going to do much of anything. They've messed up the series. I just pretend it never happened and just go back to what we already saw. We already had something. They took away Jada Skywalker. They took away the whole Glove of Vader saga and everything else, and it just ticks me off. It really does. Yeah, 200 miles an hour, that is as fast as Shinkansen. It's faster than some, because a lot of the Shinkansens are maxed out to 186. There is a faster one coming, which I will be doing a video on the Alpha X. Hopefully, I'm planning for it to this week. I'm trying to do shorter videos in spurts and get them out there as well. But the Alpha X in Japan, which is the next generation Shinkansen test mule that they're using, it went at max speed, if I remember correctly, 236 miles an hour. That is insane. Okay, 236 miles an hour is pretty insane. What's your favorite Disney animated movies? I gotta say, the last ones that they did, like the Black Cauldron in the 80s, Treasure Planet, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Tarzan, those were like the ones that people didn't like. I'm a contrarian, you guys know that. So those were like some of my favorite Disney movies, and people don't understand. It's like, why are they favorites? Like, I like them. They have a good story. They have fantastic art direction. They have fantastic script and everything. And Disney just they killed Treasure Planet too. We all know that. They Michael Eisner, I think, was the CEO of the time, or Bob Iger, one of those two, what I'm talking about, one of those two. But they went ahead and ditched out, they got rid and cut marketing for it to go ahead, and Treasure Planet was the last one to get rid of 2D animation from Disney once and for all. That's what they wanted to do. Yes, I will stay on topic. So let's go ahead, back into this. Nearly 1,000 construction workers are now on the job building Brightline's Miami to Orlando rail station. That is insane. That is pretty crazy. Okay? So look at this. 982 people are actively building out the Orlando line back in just the month of September alone. So that is crazy. It could be more, it could be less, depending on, when it is. Here's the thing about South Florida. South Florida has the same season all year round. It is an endless summer. Yes, for people who live there and have 2 brain cells to put together, it is endless hell because it will fry your brain cells. But if you can at least, stay with it and keep at it, or if you have a lot of money and you go ahead and you live up high in a condo or whatnot, you can go ahead and make a heck of a ton of money because it is always building season in Miami. You can always be building and constructing high-rises. You can always go ahead and be constructing infrastructure. It can go ahead and be doing that all the freaking time. And the reason why, that's why. It's because of the weather. So that's why you can have, that's if you ever visit South Florida, even in this, spring, summer, winter, fall, whatever it is, you're always going to see cranes. You're always going to see construction. Unlike New York, where they have to go ahead and stop construction for the time being because of the winter and the winter weather, Miami is always building. So that's pretty crazy. And the company does have a memorandum of understanding with Disney and continues to negotiate with the state and Disney for a final agreement. They're negotiating here with the King of Florida to go ahead and build that station over in Disney World. So that's pretty crazy. And again, so here's the bad news. This just came out today. The construction in Las Vegas has been delayed. So that's the final. There's your spoiler. Done. So we got there. Delayed indefinitely. This is due to financing issues. So 2020 has been, I think, a pretty bad year for finance. What do you think, guys? I really do think so. But here's the thing. Getting ahead and going in. Well, let me start from this. December 1st was when they're going to go ahead and have the deadline to raise all this money. So just the month of November to go ahead and raise $2.4 billion, which was not going to be feasible at all. Second point, going ahead and, I think we know. I think we know why they had to delay this. So indefinitely, they're probably going to go ahead and bring this back maybe halfway through next year. That will make sense. Once the market gets better, especially during the election. Because investors are going to be very, very twitchy during the election. And I just got, 2020 has been fantastic. It has. Anyway, Brightline insisted there's still investor interest in the project and it will continue to move forward. So that's good. There is no timetable for bonds to be marketed again. Brightline said it will continue to monitor timing and market volatility before returning to the market with the bond offering. Now, the bond offering does come from the state, so the state allows these bonds to be put in. They're very low interest bonds, and they're guaranteed by the state. I think it's also both by the state of Nevada and California. So they're recommending now to Nevada to reallocate these funds that they're going to, because they have a set amount of funds every single quarter. It's like, okay, we're going to have this amount of funds. We're going to have $5 billion in funds allocated for this quarter. Okay, who wants these bonds and who wants to go ahead and start selling these bonds and buying them for whichever project they have? It can be public projects, it can be private projects, it can be P3 projects. Okay, they're guaranteed by the state. That's what makes them so lucrative, because you really can't lose with that. Again, if you have something that is not going to work out too well, we already know that. So Nevada has affordable housing needs, and they're going to go ahead and put that to there. Whether you agree with that or not, that's what it is. That's just what's going on, guys. So that's what we have on that. Now, I do want to talk about Caltrains, because Caltrains has been doing, they've been moving a lot forward in terms of their train sets and their electrification process, and they also have a ballot up for vote tomorrow. So let's go ahead and look into that. Let me go ahead and look at the comments over here before we get into the next set of stories over here, because this is a doozy. This is really much a doozy. Bond, rail bond. That's pretty funny. High speed rail is the big gay. Maybe not. TCR news. No, I don't think this really. No, I don't have any TCR news right now, unfortunately. Yes, we are going to be talking about Caltrains. I know a lot of people have been asking me about Caltrains, and I have been going into it. Oh, wait, I forgot over here. GN. We got a super chat over here. Thank you so much, GN. Let's read this. If Brightline uses the 417 ESPN Wide World of Sports Complex or Disney Springs, best spot for the station if they extend to Tampa. I do think that would be good if they did it in Disney Springs. Mainly because Disney Springs, you don't have to have an admission to go into Disney Springs. And when I did look into there and I looked over in the maps and whatnot on Google Maps, just to go ahead and peruse, just to see, it does make sense to have it there. If they can be, well, the thing they also have to go ahead and build a transportation center to go ahead and accommodate all those travelers coming in. Not only that, you have to accommodate for buses. You have to accommodate for Uber and Lyft and all that. And you have to accommodate for things like Turo for people who want to go ahead. And I do think Turo is probably one of the best in terms of, renting cars and whatnot. Although we've had very good luck with Avis renting from the airports. That has been a savior for right now. Let's see what else we can look at. But I do think if they get it over to Disney Springs, if they could be able to go ahead and accommodate for a large... This is why I was saying they should think about redoing maybe the transportation center where all the monorails are. Maybe they can get a monorail over to Disney Springs. But maybe that's just making way too many connections. I don't know. Let's see what goes over there. There's a lot of people that they have going ahead and researching the area, researching what they can do on. And Disney and the state of Florida is looking to where will be possibly the best and most lucrative area to go ahead and build this station. Someone says you're carsy or crazy. Quit spamming, y'all. What about Caltrain electrification? We're getting into that. Grambo's asking any thoughts on Disney redeeming themselves if they did the Thrawn trilogy. I'll leave that for the other channel. We'll look into that maybe some other time. So let's get into this, guys. So we're going to look at what the Caltrain... First of all, Caltrain is coming out with their electric cars in 2022. They're being built by Stadler. They're being built in Utah. They're a done deal. This came from the money that they got for the California High-Speed Rail Authority that they went ahead and chipped in a little bit. The authority went ahead and shared some money with Caltrain so they can go ahead and get some electric trains. Not only that, they're already running diesel trains right now. Again, very similar to Tri-Rail, similar to Sunrail, similar to a whole lot of other commuter lines around the United States that use heavy diesel rail train sets. What Caltrain is doing, what California is doing, is that they're electrifying about 50 miles over in the Bay Area to make it electrified to go full on about 80 miles an hour, or 79 miles an hour, to be exact over there. But to go ahead and do that and make it a lot easier, smoother, and cleaner, and easier to operate, and cheaper to operate, because electric is a lot cheaper to operate once you get everything going. To build is a lot more expensive than just going ahead and getting diesel train sets to go there. But to operate, once you have everything going, electric trains are far easier to keep up in terms of maintenance, far easier to keep up in terms of operating and operating funds. So let's go ahead and play this video over here.
They're busy making the electric trains that Caltrain plans to have rolling down the peninsula in less than 2 years. And today we got to look outside as well as a virtual
so this is good.
Look inside. ABC 7 News reporter David Louie is our tour guide.
The outside shells of 7 next-generation electric cars have already been produced at this facility in Salt Lake City. Over the next 2 years, the European railcar manufacturer Stadler will make 19 of them for Caltrain.
If you like the sound, the electric sound of a Tesla, you'll also like the sound of our electric train.
Here's a virtual reality look at what lies inside. 1,000 Caltrain riders offered comments to pick color schemes and the seats. Power outlets and Wi-Fi are planned. Each train will have 2 cars set aside for bikes with cameras for security. Restrooms appear to be spacious and include an infant changing table.
The great benefit of these trains compared to our diesel right now is
most
that they'll be able
trains
to
already
stop
have
much
that.
more quickly and start much more quickly to get up to speed.
What kind of speed? Initially, the same 79 miles an hour with diesel engines, but the new trains will have a top speed of 110.
Yeah, I think it's 110. Yeah,
Before
that's
the
what it is.
pandemic, Caltrain was carrying 65,000 passengers per day.
We're going to be able to triple that number over the next 20 years with electrification.
The conversion to electric trains is the result of $1 billion in federal funding. A similar amount came from state and local government. That should help to ease Peninsula Freeway congestion.
About $2 billion,
Caltrain
guys.
carries the equivalent of 4 freeway lanes of 101 traffic. And in the future, we'd be carrying an additional 5.5 lanes.
Yeah, but those are, come on, yeah, they are Stadler
train.
flirts.
The first electrified train will be sent to Colorado in January for a year-long track test. Caltrain will receive its first delivery next summer, with phased-in service expected in 2022. If you'd like to check out more video of the new cars in virtual reality, Caltrain is offering a limited number of
And we'll be checking that out.
at its website, calmod.org/VR. David Louie, ABC 7 News.
Yeah. I think it's only for those in, I think we know that California's going to go blue anyway, so I don't know why we even need to have that. So let's go ahead and look into this, because this is pretty cool, guys. Actually, we're going to go ahead and look over into the train in VR. But I think for those of you who live in California, you want to go ahead and get one of those Google Cardboards, basically, to look in VR and just put your phone in there. But let's go ahead and look at the train in VR. Let's enter the experience here. Let's see how this is. I'll go ahead and copy the link over here. Yeah, I do have a PlayStation VR. I love playing games like Super Hot. That's one of my favorite VR games. Should get back into that because I lost the. I had those little PlayStation. I had the PS3 Move nunchucks or whatever they're called, the little ice cream cones. I had them since the PS3 Move, and then I had my family send them up here when I got Holly PSVR, so she can be able to have the whole full-on experience. So let's go into here. It's not technically VR over here, guys, but let's go ahead and check it out. Looking at the Caltrain CalMod. Whenever it starts. Alright. There we are. So here, this is just what we're just looking at now. So this is what it's going to look like over here, which is, more or less what we see in every other commuter train, but this is pretty good, though. So we got a little info center over there. Little TV, or tablet, I guess. I see these seats. Seat colors were chosen by riders through a robust public outreach process and showcases the iconic Caltrain colors. It's pretty cool. Let's see what else we can look at. Again, these seats look pretty comfortable. Your standard seating on a commuter rail train, but it's pretty good. Alright. And we got some security cameras over here and whatnot. What's this over here? Passenger emergency intercom. Okay, in case of emergency, conductor, we have a problem. Please pull this all the time, guys. Don't pull that. Hallway equipment closure. So let's go ahead and look at that. Okay. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Alright, let's go upstairs and see what's over here. Again, yeah, very similar to Tri-Rail. When I used to go to work every morning in Coral Gables, from the North Miami Beach station, I used to go ahead and just go back up. Used to go ahead and just get like a meal from like McDonald's, the one with the pancakes, what they call hotcakes for some reason at McDonald's. I don't know why. Just go ahead and sit down, eat, and enjoy the ride over while I was, having my breakfast and going on there and read a book and whatnot. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, currently they're going 79 miles an hour max. Those are the diesel units that they have. But with this, they're going to be able to go 110 miles an hour updated. So that's going to be pretty cool. Alright, so I put the link in there, guys, if you want to go ahead and see that on your own time. That's going to be pretty cool. Oh, there's another one. Oops, there we are. Now, the other cool thing about that is because they're going to have an increased amount of capacity in there, as well as the increased amount of trains that are going to be, again, with the amount of speed, it's a lot easier to go ahead and, bring in more people from station to station. It just makes sense. But going ahead and looking at this, it will take this is what they're predicting. It will take 100,000 cars off the road every day, of course, albeit after a post-coup economic recovery. And that's pretty good. Again, we know about induced traffic because, again, the problem is that the more lanes you build, the more cars you bring onto the highway, and then you're going to have more traffic. That's what we know from induced demand. That's what it's called. As always, inviting more traffic jams, delays, costs, emission, the subsequent crashes and carnage that comes with more vehicles miles driven. And that's we've seen that in Los Angeles, and we've seen that in the Bay Area and everywhere else. Of course, it's probably the most worst off over in California, since they have the most amount of people in state, about a population of 55 million or so. About 1/6 of the United States, more or less, or 1/7 or 1/8 around that area. I mean, they make a big, it's a massive population. So now there is, see if we can go over here. Well, let's go into this. So we do have a measure going on and on the ballot for November the 3rd, tomorrow, for those of you in California. It's called Measure RR, Measure Railroad. Let's go ahead and click on that. So they're asking for people to go ahead and vote yes on the railroad to rescue Caltrain, relieve traffic, and reduce pollution. What this is about a tax, like it's about 12-cent tax on everything else. Basically, it's California. Hey, it's going to be taxes on everything to go ahead and fund the further phases of the Caltrain electrification. Now, God, I can't stand when Windows goes ahead and just updates thing by itself. I hate that. So let's enter into the problems of what's going on right now with Caltrain and everywhere else in the United States. Everybody's metro trains and metro transit systems are experiencing less passengers. And of course, we know why. There's a massive pandemic going on. People aren't going to work, or people have lost their jobs completely. I can understand. And they're not going to work, or they're working from home. Hence, there's no need to go ahead and travel, and hence there's no need to go ahead and use the train if you live in a metro area that does allow you and does have the convenience of having a metro system. It's very unfortunate, but that's what it is. But this is what it's looking like. San Francisco Muni, Caltrain, BART, and other Bay Area agencies continue to report extremely low ridership numbers, even though health officials say no COOF outbreaks have been linked to buses or trains. And again, it's a fear factor. This guy said over here, Chris Reed, the first time he's been back on BART in about 6 months. So people are scared. I mean, you can tell people whatever you want. They have a choice, and they probably won't go ahead and do what you tell them. Of course, putting on a mask or stuff like that. Again, whatever you say about mask and whatever I think about mask, it just goes to show you that people aren't going to listen to you if you tell them or try to force them to do things. Especially over here in America, because this country was founded on resisting higher, let's put it this way, kings and queens and higher powers. That's the whole point. San Francisco Muni officials said ridership is at 22% of pre-pandemic level. BART is at 13%. Caltrain is even worse, and this is where a lot of the problem is going to start. For what we're going into in these next set of articles. Ridership is 5% of pre-pandemic level. 5%. That is just insane. I came to the station, it was virtually empty. So I figured, hey, about as safe as it's going to get. It's true. So, if there's nobody there to go ahead and spread the COOF and no transmission, there's nothing to worry about, right? And everybody's saying, it's okay. BART reported an entire car's air is replaced every 70 seconds. And we've seen that with airlines as well, that every 90 seconds or 3 minutes, it goes through the HEPA filters or HEPA filters, however you pronounce it, and cleans out everything. Again, the only problem is, and with planes is that you're stuck in the plane for 90 minutes to an hour, 3 hours on end. Hence, you can't really get out. There's no doors opening every 5 minutes or so to exchange air or exchange people to let people in and out. That wouldn't be pretty good on an airplane. I don't think so. But that's the reason why there's a lot more transmission on planes rather than trains and buses. All right, that's just simple science. BART is also testing UV light. They're testing a whole bunch of other things. Newer filters, MERV 8 filters, MERV 14 filters, UV light to kill the viruses when it enters the ventilation system. So they're trying to go ahead on a lot of things. Again, you can tell people whatever you want. You can tell them we're going to go ahead. There's no viruses on there or whatnot, but people are not going to listen to whatever you say. That's just what it is. And again, a lot of this has to do with the economy. If the economy was back on its feet, and we're going to have to live with this. This is just you cannot just keep people inside. The virus is just going to stay with us regardless. The flu is still here. Everybody still catches the common cold. And again, that's just what it is. Okay, so we're just going to have to live with it. There's no way we can get rid of this thing. Just like the swine flu, there was no lockdown for the swine flu. So right now, again, this is the proposed 12.5 cent sales tax increase for 3 involved counties. So every time you buy something in these counties, not just a 7% tax, but a 12.5 cent tax, apart from probably other taxes that are on there as well. San Francisco, San Mateo, and Santa Clara counties. And again, it's not doing too well in the polls. So let's just get to this. I don't really think this is going to pass, to be honest. They can go ahead and put it on the ballot again. But as this is right now, people are hurting. People don't want to be spending more money than it is. And people are kind of upset in California about the increased amount of taxes. Again, hence why so many people are moving out of California and places like New York and etc. And they'll go ahead and ruin places like Texas. The scourge of California never ends. You can't just stay in California, guys. Third, in order to get grasping politicians in San Francisco and Santa Clara counties to come on board and finally agree to go forward with the tax at the 11th hour, San Mateo County transportation officials had to agree to certain key concessions. So they had to go ahead and change a little bit of the proposal for people to go ahead and vote on, and what it's going to entail. What they're going to fund, what their budgets are going to look like for the next several years with the increased amount of revenue from these tax dollars. Where's it going to go? How's it going to be spent? That's what people want to know. And if you look at some of the comments over here, people are kind of upset. Even like in the previous comments about this. Let me see if I can find it. Again, a lot of the top comments over here. I voted for Caltrain electrification increase, bond, etc. like 3 or 4 times in the last decade. Each one passed. Each one was supposed to do the job. Why are we doing this again? So a lot of people are upset. It's like, we've already given you money. We've already increased the taxes. How much more do you need? And that does make sense. They do have a valid point. Speaking of that, there's another article over here. And again, we'll put these articles and we'll put them in the comments later on. So everybody can go ahead and see them. We'll put that on the paste bin. And you can check it out later once we get the video edited out and we cut out all the nice music that we had on the beginning and whatnot. Get that out of there and put it back on. And we'll have that there. So this is from Palo Alto Online. Guest opinions, arguments for and against Caltrains Measure Railroad. So here's Mark Berman, who says yes on Measure Railroad to save Caltrain. Measure Railroad, which is on the ballot in Santa Clara, San Mateo, and San Francisco counties, is an 8-cent sales tax increase. I don't get that. Why is he saying 8 cents or 8 cent? That doesn't make any sense. Cents. You know what I'm saying? Because this one was saying 12 and a half. I don't know. Yeah. Oh wait. Okay. Oh, an 1/8 cent. Okay, so it's this is not dollars, guys. This is a cents. Okay, so it's 0.125 cents. Okay, so that's less than a penny. That's what they're saying. Okay, that makes sense. And again, it's like the half-penny tax that they had in South Florida to fund the Metro Rail back in the 90s. And, well, you know where that went. again, I'm just speaking from experience. I know how, we've lived through it in South Florida with the half penny tax, which was supposed to go mainly to the Metro Rail. It mostly went to the bus system in Miami-Dade County. And if everybody knows how bad the bus system is in Miami-Dade County, with close to 20% of the workforce not even being present at work every single day. They're probably going out to the beach. You don't know. It's South Florida. Hey, it's what it is. So electrification is scheduled to go online in 2022. Measure RR will pay for operations for this cleaner, faster system. Electrified, quieter trains will mean cleaner air, less noise pollution for our communities, reducing criteria air pollutant emissions by up to 97%, and eliminating over 176,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions along the corridor every year. All right, that makes sense. Designed to make Caltrain more accessible to more of our communities who don't currently ride. So they're doing an equity, tax. So if you live in, you live in one of these communities. I'm trying not to say the word. They're piloting a 50% fare reduction for lower income riders. So you basically get, half off if you live in these communities. So that's what they're doing. An expanded Caltrain, stuff like this. Maybe it's not something worth going ahead and funding if they're trying to go ahead and they're really so shortened out to go ahead and get this infrastructure funded. Going ahead and doing other stuff, and that's a lot. There's a lot of pork involved in other measures and stuff like this. Is it a good thing to have? Yes, it is. In order to get more people to ride, is it pertinent in order to focus in building the infrastructure? No, that's just what it is. An expanded Caltrain provides a much-needed economic boost to the area. Projections show that Measure RR will add approximately 16,000 good-paying jobs across the 3 counties. It's going to be pretty good. In terms of time right now, guys, we're at 9:06 p.m. I'm expecting to go about 2 hours with this, so we got to go ahead and go ahead 1 hour. We were at our peak. We were at about 80 viewers, so we're at 66 right now. So that's pretty good. We're pretty good right here, guys. Let's see. Please take a look at the new Caltrains for Pikes Peak. I think we looked at that before, Ashkar, but I'll go ahead and look at it again. Maybe for the next. If there's anything more new on that, just let me know. So this is the guy who's saying voting no on the measure. And this is what he's saying. Again, it was supposed to be originally 800 million. Now it's over 3.2 billion that they want. And I do agree with this. This is a prime example of government waste and profligacy that the voters hate. And it's true, when they say, oh, it's going to be only this much amount of money. If it was a private company, they're just going to have to raise more. Okay, they just can't really go ahead and get taxpayer money, as easily. But for a public infrastructure project like this, going ahead and getting more taxpayer money, and again, taxpayer money seems to be infinite. Okay, getting public funding seems to be infinite amount. A lot of our taxpayer money has gone ahead to go ahead and pay interest to the Federal Reserve for the amount of money they go ahead and lend to the United States. Again, America and our country is going ahead and getting a lot of loaned money to keep itself afloat. If you guys have, learned a little bit, or at least what the Federal Reserve does, there's really no way around it. It's going to collapse at some point, but that's just another story for another channel. Hint, hint. Instead of the ruinous electrification program, Caltrain refused to consider modern Tier 4 diesel trains as an alternative. Hence, there was, I guess, a project to go ahead and look at doing Tier 4 diesel trains similar to Brightline, having maybe those Siemens trains on there instead. They cost 1/4 as much, are quiet and clean, and get you to San Francisco about 3 minutes later than an electric train. Is that severe delay worth putting up with to save billions? Well, I mean, it's a good number of passengers. I will say that. 3.5 minutes. That does add up, guy. But again, like I said before, diesel trains to go ahead and buy and to keep on there is cheaper on the onset than electric trains. However, in order to maintain them and as fast as they don't really go as fast, they don't accelerate and decelerate as smoothly and as quickly as electric trains, and they don't have a high top speed. Okay, and again, diesel is expensive. You're dependent now on, maybe foreign oil or oil coming in to go ahead and fuel these trains. You're not dependent on the grid. Okay, there's pros and cons to that. But we know 99.9% of the time the electric grid is up. Unless you're in California, which is, a good point. I think someone put that in the comments below, the electricity going off in California every so often. But at least having your own electric grid on there, it's a lot cheaper for electricity. All right. Caltrain received $745 million from HSR and in return gave up control of its 50-mile right-of-way, agreeing to let HSR run 10 trains north and 10 trains south every hour. A little exercise that will paralyze the peninsula with the grade crossing gates coming down every 3 minutes. I'm not quite sure where he's going on this, that he's saying that high-speed rail will not be separated from crossing gates and it will be at grade. I'm going to have to look more into that. If anybody in the comments below can say it, is California high-speed rail, are they going to have at-grade crossings? I know I saw they were going to have at-grade crossings for Caltrain and they were going to have California high-speed rail separated, but I don't know if they're going to actually do this. That's not good if they're doing that. I don't know. Okay, so a Cellar Rail fan here said yes, so they are going to have it. They're going to have a 200-mile-an-hour train on a grade crossing? Oh, God, that's... Okay, we're going to have to look a little bit more into that, guys. So if a Cellar Rail fan here is right. Okay, on Caltrain and Metrolink tracks, yes. Okay, but is it going to be for the high-speed rail too? Okay, that's not good. Okay, so from you guys in the comments, I'm going to trust you on this. So they're going to say, again, who's going to come back and say, "Oh, Demetrius, you're being wrong." And it's like, hey, it's, it is what it is at the time. I already know, Afterwards, I can go ahead and, retract the comment later and say, "Hey, I was wrong," and I take responsibility for it. But no, only LA, but it will be slower. Yeah, and again, everybody else is going to be laughing at this from everywhere else in the first world. They're going to be saying, hey, how can we have trains at grade, trains that are capable of going 200 miles an hour and having them at grade? Not even Amtrak has that over the Northeast Corridor. That will make sense. Again, Brightline does do that. But again, we're talking about electrified train. Could you imagine that, guys, if there's a truck that's over the limit and it goes in and just snaps over the catenaries? That would be a mess. That would be an extreme mess. I don't know how the heck. I mean, yeah, they're gonna do it, but I mean, that I don't know. And again, this guy, there's pros and cons to this. I agree with both of them. Yes, there's a reason why to have it, and there's a reason why not to have it. So it makes sense. Yes, we do want to have it electrified. But why he's saying no is that the way and method that they're getting electrified is, it's dumb. It's not wrong. It's typical California. I get that. Is it going to happen anyway? It probably is. Should we go ahead and, vote for it? That's up to you guys in California. I'm just giving you the message. Again, I think having that, for rails, it's probably going to happen anyway. If I was in California, I probably would vote for it. At this point, I'm already poor and, living under a gutter somewhere in San Francisco and, shooting myself up with needles or something like that. I don't know. Or maybe on the other end of the spectrum, I'm working for Google, living in a garage and getting paid $100,000 a year while paying, $10,000 a month in rent. That's what it is to live in a garage. Again, hyperbole all around, but, making a joke, guys. This is also an interesting comment that I got here. Caltrain has become a wealthy person's commute vehicle. The average household income for a rider is $100,000 per year, according to a 2018 Caltrain ridership survey. That's pretty interesting for another reason. Because, again, he's going to say that, this is just for Silicon Valley and for the rich to go ahead and ride on their little electric trains. But, I mean, this just goes to show you that, hey, you don't have to be a poor person to ride the train. You can be rich and ride the train too, It's the same thing. Everybody in New York rides the subway. Whether you're rich and you live in a condo 100 stories up, or whether you're poor and live in the Bronx. Everybody rides the subway at some point, right? Some more than others. It's almost 1.5 hours. Okay, yeah, we're 1 and 15 hours. We're doing good. We still got a little bit more to go. We'll just go ahead and, zip a little bit through this. Again, Caltrain is running out of money, and the budgets aren't doing well. Anywhere from $18.5 million to $31.3 million shortfall. And again, I'll put all these articles on there, and I'm also speaking from what I've read in these articles because I read them prior to this, about a day prior. And they had the Joint Powers Board. So the Joint Powers Board is basically the transit authority up there in the peninsula over in the Bay Area. I think my highlights disappeared for some reason. So this is funny. Wait, where was it? I think I saw it somewhere over here. Rather than adopt a full-year budget in September at the conclusion of the Poultry's first quarter, the Joint Powers Board instead opted to take a quarter-by-quarter approach to avoid approving a balanced budget with a $60 million deficit. This is funny. Balanced budget with a $60 million deficit. How do you make a balanced budget and lose money at the same time? So again, they're not doing so well, and about 70%, I believe, if I read that correctly, 70% of the revenue comes from train tickets. And the rest of it comes from funding from the different boards in the area. So it makes sense that they're really low on money, especially this year. Everybody is low on money this year. And it's not good. Let's go to the other coast now. The Long Island Railroad says they're going to have commuters that will be lost forever, which means they're never going to come back. It's pretty sad to see this. Again, predict a drop in fare revenue of 64%. I lost some of my highlights over here too. I don't know why. So again, they were going ahead, and the Long Island Railroad, long story short, was going ahead and expanding and creating more stations. But some people are saying, do we really need that stations? Pre-pandemic, it sounded great, but right now, is it really smart to spend that money? Said Gerard Brinkman, chairman of the LIRR Commuter Council, who predicts about 20% of Long Island Railroad riders are lost forever. You lose 20% of your ridership, that's 20% of your fare box revenue, and that's going to hurt. And again, a 64% drop in fare revenue, and that's not good. They made $769 million last year, and they're $279 that they're expecting to get this year. That's pretty bad. And at some months, it dropped to as low as 3% of pre-COOF levels at the height of the pandemic in the spring. So 91 million customers. They had maybe about 2 million or so, for the year or whatnot. Again, look at this. Look at this drop. Okay. So this is crazy. So here's 2019. Again, the biggest month is in June. Nice warm weather. You're not freezing half to death, and you can go out in shorts and whatnot. So you have 8 million riders. And then in the same month of June, in 2020, 1.1 million. That's crazy. And then April, 253,000. Okay, that's 96% down. Look at that, of 7 million. That is just insane. Let me see. Some of these comments got there we are. Look at some of these comments over here. Okay, I guess we're still on totally relevant question. Why did 3 people dislike? It's the same, probably 3 people that have been following us since Brightline. The ones that live in the Treasure Coast. There's like 3 people that always go ahead and dislike videos all the time. Some old sorry boomers or something like that. Again, no harm to any boomers or whatnot. They're, some of them are good. Let's just be honest, some of them are good. But yeah, they just go ahead and just downvote every single video that comes out. They're just on there, just, brigading us every single time. So they're trying to get back to normal rush hour trains. So I think they cut down about like 70% of their trains. And let me see, I like to miss the meanies. Just getting some Skype messages on here too. After working through the night, Amtrak completed the switch work just east of Penn Station around 6 a.m. As a result, Long Island Railroad morning rush service is expected to operate normally. So they were having some problems again from the rush hour delays. Again, not too much of a rush hour. Again, they're trying to get back onto there. But here's the thing. There's so many people that are leaving out of New York. And the MTA is having problems as well. So we're looking all over the New York, New Jersey area over here, from the Long Island to New Jersey Metro. I don't have any articles on the NJ Metro, but the MTA is not having a good time. Service slashes could erase 400 250,000 jobs. That's according to the New York Times. By 2022, resulting in $50 billion in lost earnings. And again, there's a lot of bad that's going on because of this pandemic. Okay, and again, it's not the president's fault. Okay, it has all to do with China, and I agree. I think he did correct as best as he could do in order to curb this. A lot of this has to do now is like, okay, we need to get the economy back rolling, to get people back to work, to get people going on this. We're going to have to live with it. Get people moving, okay? Because if the economy doesn't move, these trains don't move. That's just what it is. Some people are saying, about from the looting that's been going on in New York and whatnot. I agree. A lot of what's been going on in New York has been awful. In just very much in the last year, but in the last several years, it hasn't been good. A large budget hole after the system emptied of riders, starving the agency of fare. So ridership plateaued to about 30% of pre-COOF levels as more companies extend work from home policies. And look at this, 25% of riders still using the system would abandon public transit if service is significantly reduced. Because the MTA is looking, it's like, well, how can we save money? Maybe we can just cut the amount of trains or whatnot. And people are saying, well, if you cut the trains, those are trains I will be using. I'm not going to be able to use them again. So where will they go? They'll go to using cars in New York, which is good luck getting anywhere on a car, or to using bikes or rideshare or anything like that. The agency has been lobbying for $12 billion federal stimulus aid after receiving nearly $4 billion from an initial stimulus package. Here's the problem with the stimulus package, guys. They should be, and this is the problem, both the Democrats and the Republicans in Congress keep hiding stuff in each of their plans. Instead of going ahead and saying, let's vote on just stimulus for people. If they want the $1,200 checks, fine. Let's go ahead and just do a one-page plan. It should only fit on a Post-it. Yes or no. Give everybody a $1,200 check. Just vote yes or no. But this is what they don't. This is what they do. They instead go ahead and hide a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to fund this. We're going to fund this. We're going to fund this. And dozens of pages, hundreds of pages of stupidity to go ahead and fund every other project. Now, good things do get put into this, like the last CARES Act. They did get $4 billion from the stimulus package, and again, a lot of bad things. Okay, the airlines also got. If I remember correctly, I think the airlines got their own bill, which says a lot. That the people in the United States don't get their own bill, but the airlines go ahead and get their own separate bill. But everybody else is already put into there. That would say a lot. I need to go ahead and look into that. Yeah, somebody said here, Auto Tech Xbox. Yes, we do need political parties. I do agree. If we have something more like a European-style system where there's different parties and there's coalitions, or like Japan or whatnot. Again, like a European system, if there's more parties, there's a lot more debate going on, and there's people that can go ahead and say, well, the Republican Party or the Democrat Party doesn't really fit me, but this smaller party that has 3 or 10 seats in Congress and is growing, maybe that one I want to go ahead and do. And they'll have coalitions, and they'll go ahead and support bills that, if they're on the right side or left side, that, they'll mostly agree on. I agree. This is really bad. I don't think I did an F-bomb there, but hey, that's what it is. Still, the agency is required to pass a balanced budget by the end of the year, and facing the possibility of the agency not receiving any more federal assistance. We're not getting anything else, okay? I'm going to tell you guys, we're not seeing another stimulus bill until the inauguration, okay? It is not happening, okay? I do agree with Alex Jones on this. It's going to be 79 days of hell. 79 days of hell from the election over to the inauguration. It's going to happen. We're not going to get anything done. If Trump wins, it's going to be, we can't have him. We got to recount. The Democrats are not going to do anything. No, he is not the right president, and he's not going to do it. If Biden wins, which he probably won't, but if they find some way to go ahead and do it, Trump is not going to let that go. You know that. He will not let that go, and they'll be having recount after recount, and the Democrats will be trying to block it, and he'll sick the FBI on them, which probably the FBI is not going to do anything. The ones that are going to do stuff are going to be the judges. He put over 300 federal judges or sort. He's got Amy Coney Barrett, who's now the newest Supreme Court Justice. Which, funny enough, she didn't even vote on the, all the ballot questions that have gone on in places like Texas and Pennsylvania. So what was the whole point of putting her in there if she's not doing anything? What a waste, in my opinion. That was a loser decision to do. I don't know why people think that she's far right or anything like that. She's not. Calm down. It's not gonna be. Oh God, what's that book? The Handmaid's Tale. I hated that book. And my best friend Parker can corroborate on this. We had to read that book for 10th grade 10 years ago. I absolutely hated that book. It is like a horrible feminist version of Revolt in 2100. Revolt in 2100 by Robert Heinlein is a far better book. And this just absolutely sucks. And they made it into a Netflix. Oh, God. Hi, Miss Keller. Yes, I didn't like that book at all, Miss Keller. If people get accustomed to working from home even longer, because the subway and commuter rail systems aren't reliable, it will be even more difficult to recover. How did you guys like that segue in between, horrible books into that? And I agree. This is the problem in New York. I remember this New York Post article. This was just crazy. So many people are leaving New York State and New York City in droves. They are leaving in droves. Okay? Just like, Joe Rogan talks about all the time, leaving California and how terrible it is and whatnot. And again, I just got back into, listening to his shows because for like several months he was just awful. He's only gotten better now in the last several weeks. But so many people are leaving a lot of Democrat cities and a lot of Democrat states. There's more restrictions. That's just what it is. Democrats love to have regulations, whether it's for the better or for worse. Having regulations in order to make sure that there's clean air and clean water and that people's toes and fingers aren't being chopped up into mincemeat and being put into food. Those are good regulations. I don't want to have a finger in my Wendy's chili. But, when you regulate too much and you tax too much, normal people are going to have a snapping point. And this was the snapping point. Once the COOF regulation started going in and people couldn't go out, people couldn't work, people had to wear a mask, which I don't think the masks really went ahead and sent people out. That's not a big deal. But really more the regulations of people wanting to work. People want to have money. People want to live their lives. That's what it is. When you can't do that, they're going to leave. They're just going to do that. So I remember this article, and I put this over here. Well, the New York Post cover, the land of the flea. And the home of the brave, ? Yeah, but that's what it is. People are moving in droves. And like 20% of them are moving to Florida, which is a bad thing for Florida. But hey, it's what it is, Florida's already infested with these New Yorkers everywhere. It tells you what I think about that. But, it's crazy. People are leaving and they're either going upstate New York from the city. And again, these are pictures everywhere. It's stuff like this. Boxes put up on the Upper West Side or, over on the Lower East Side and stuff like that. We used to move, again, look at this. We used to move people from Brooklyn to Manhattan or Queens, said David Giampietro, the company's chief administrative officer. He's for a moving company. Now it's the mileage. We're not going 5 miles anymore. It's more like 20, 30, 40 to New Jersey, Connecticut, and upstate. More than 16,000 New Yorkers changed their address to Connecticut from March through June. And again, United Van Lines and Mayflower Movers said it had done 1,000 out-of-state moves from New York starting in March, with 28% moving to Florida. Oh, and California. Well, maybe they go to California there. They can be contained there in their containment state of California. 16% to Texas and North Carolina. And again, a lot of people moving to California. There is so much business moving over to North Carolina. That is unbelievable. All right, so let's go to Amtrak. All right, we're doing good over here. We're at 9:28 p.m. here, and I think we'll be able to end a little bit earlier than 10 p.m. And we'll get ready for the election, and we'll answer a couple questions and whatnot. And we'll leave it for the end. So this was from NBC 15 News over, I think, in Mobile, Alabama, questioning the existence of Amtrak. Amtrak is a word that represents a world of possibilities here on the Gulf Coast. So again, Amtrak has been wanting to get back on the Gulf Coast. A lot of Gulf Coast residents, let me just get there. A lot of Gulf Coast residents want Amtrak to come back over there. They used to be there until we know the big accident that happened. And a lot of other couple of reasons why. I mean, that was, one of the impetus to go ahead and start moving Amtrak out of there. A lot of it had to do with cost. That's what it was. In a letter to Congress, Amtrak warns an additional 2,400 jobs, apart from the ones that have already been cut, will be cut without more federal assistance, telling lawmakers business remains at about 25% of pre-coup levels based on our current forecast. Our current fiscal year 2021 ridership and revenue are forecast to improve about 40% of pre-coup levels, which is weaker than anticipated. Again, this just goes to show you that a lot of people, when they go ahead and say, oh, we're predicting, 100,000 people to ride on the line or whatnot, always underestimate of where it's going to be. Always do that, and you're going to be safer. Or you can always, if you overestimate, it's always going to be a little bit lower. It's always going to be that way. Amtrak is asking lawmakers for $5 billion to keep the service going. Again, everybody is asking for money. Amtrak is asking for just $5 billion compared to what New York is asking for. What are they asking for? They're asking for what? $14 billion, I believe. No, $12 billion. I was $2 billion off. $2 billion. It's just $2 billion, guys. What can I do with $2 billion? The agency's been lobbying for $12 billion in federal aid. So that's New York alone. Okay, and the MTA does move a ton of passengers. They move the most amount in the United States. It's the busiest rail corridor in the United States. Amtrak here is just asking for $5 billion. It's just $5 billion. I mean, what can you do with $5 billion? So look over here. So if Amtrak is struggling to stay afloat in the most commuter-rich region of America, will that have an effect to bring Amtrak over to Mobile? Okay. So this is David Clark, who's a member of the Southern Rail Commission. They say it's not doing anything to it right now. It says none right now. We're still collaborating. We're still trying to figure out a few facts so we can make that final decision. So again, Amtrak is looking to go ahead and expand, looking to go ahead and increase ridership in different areas or expand the ridership to different parts of the countries or to reopen previous lines that once used to exist, 20, 30, 40 years ago, but now don't for various reasons, mostly due to cost. Because of this whole pandemic in 2020, it has messed up so many plans for Amtrak. Again, Amtrak was going to have the first year in 2020, it will be financially profitable in its 49-year existence. In 50 years that Amtrak has existed, it would have finally made a profit. Which again, it's weird because Amtrak is a government-run business, but the government mandates it to run as a private company. Amtrak is not a private company, but they have to run it as such, which makes no sense. Okay? Because the airlines don't. The airlines certainly don't. They go ahead and keep getting money from them. Roadways certainly don't in the United States. Which roadway actually makes money in the United States? Very few. Very, very few. But Amtrak is the one special person, the one special company that has to go ahead and run it in a certain way. So they're in a very, very small, finite gray area where very little companies, a very small amount of companies actually go ahead and exist. That they're a government-funded and government-run company, but they have to operate as if they were a private company. It doesn't make any sense. That's not a way to go ahead and do that. It makes no sense. And again, you know me, guys. I'm more of a libertarian-minded type of person. I'm more of a free market type of person. But this is stupid. This is stupid how the government has treated Amtrak, and it's wrong. It is absolutely wrong. Okay, because other governments will go ahead and they'll fund their tracks, like in France or in Germany, or right now the UK is now taking back all its tracks. It stopped its weird privatization. It's a weird experiment because it didn't do privatization right. It didn't do it like the Japanese. It said, oh, look, the Japanese have privatized their railway. But yeah, you didn't privatize it the way the Japanese did. The Japanese went ahead and gave private companies a whole entire section of track, all the train sets and all the stations there. You separated the train sets, you separated the trackage, you separated the trackage usage, and you separated the train stations, and you separated the workers on there. So now there's a whole bunch of companies that now have to work together in order to do that. And it doesn't make any sense. It's silly. It is very silly. So this is an article looking at Amtrak System 2035, or the proposed system. And again, Amtrak has proposed, this is what Amtrak is going to look like in 2020. We're in 2020. It didn't look like that in 2019. Or this is how Amtrak is going to look in 2040 or whenever. Okay? Amtrak has never been able to do that. Okay? So again, take this with a very small grain of salt. It's probably not going to happen. It's good to dream. It's just not going to happen. Some of these proposed routes are new for Amtrak's largest passenger train operator, with the goal of being to increase connecting traffic along with the hub and spoke system or feeding pre-existing trains. Routes like the Cheyenne, Pueblo, Tucson, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Nashville, Atlanta will feed lines like the Crescent Empire Builder or terminate at a hub station to increase through traffic. This is where it doesn't make any sense. Why would Amtrak go ahead and try to compete with Brightline over here? This is Brightline's territory now. Amtrak has officially, or basically effectively, out of the game for Florida. Okay, Brightline is going to go ahead, and by 2035, Brightline will probably be up in Jacksonville. Again, they're not saying it, but they've been looking to go ahead and say, yeah, we're going to look up to go ahead and, see where we can go and expand in Jacksonville, maybe between Charlotte, North Carolina, and Atlanta, which again, Charlotte is speaking of North Carolina, Charlotte is one of the biggest growing cities in the United States. They're really growing in terms of tech companies that are based over there or moving over to North Carolina from places like California or New York. They're moving over to North Carolina. They're moving over to Texas, and they're moving over to Florida. Again, that brings in good. That brings in a lot of economic surplus. That brings in a lot of more money and you have negative. You bring in a lot more people who go ahead and bring their New York politics or the California politics over to Florida, which is not good. But this is what they're looking at to do. This makes no sense. Why are they going to go ahead and try to compete here? Why are they going to try to go ahead and compete with the Texas Central Railway? Again, makes no sense. Why are they going to try to compete with Brightline West? Why? It makes no sense. These are questions that people should be asking Amtrak. Is like, why did you go ahead in your proposal system go ahead and make a proposal to compete with Brightline in their home state and in the stations that will be open in about the next 2 years or so? Why are you doing that? Are you expecting to still have passengers in that area? No. I think they're trying to go ahead and because it says, I can't read this. Service implemented in 2030. You're like 10 years too late, buddy. That's in 2030. Again, it could be for that. It could be to go ahead and re-implement long-distance trains between Miami and New York and other places like that, like the Silver Star and the Silver Meteor. That would make sense, but having that there, I don't think so, guys. I really don't think so. And again, some people are going ahead and about Going ahead, Amtrak's new routes seem to imitate what Europe and Asia have determined to be good distance for passengers to select the rail for. Again, just keep in mind, this is from Airline Geeks, and this is from a guy who's, of course, pro airlines. So I'm taking it, again, with a grain of salt, because some of the stuff he says over here doesn't make any sense. For instance, Japanese logistics heavily favor airlines once trains start to breach 400-mile journeys. That's correct. Even Japan's Tohoku Shinkansen and Hokkaido Shinkansen do not match the capacity created by airlines. Yes, that's correct. Most people are not going to go from Tokyo to Sapporo on the train. Past 400 miles, they're going to go ahead and take an airline. They're going to go ahead and take the plane, which makes sense. In this article, he makes it look like, they won't fly from, this one is wrong over here when he says flights from Osaka to Tokyo. Let me just read through it. With 1.64 million riders on the Hokkaido Shinkansen being well below the 9.6 million flyers between Tokyo Haneda and Sapporo. Similarly, flights between Tokyo Haneda and Fukuoka, Osaka Itami, and Naha also rank as some of the most populated in the world. Despite Osaka Tokyo competing directly with the Tokaido Shinkansen and Fukuoka Tokyo competing with the blend of the Tokaido Shinkansen and Kyushu Shinkansen. Of these city pairs, only the Osaka leg is less than 400 miles. And again, Tokyo to Osaka has the most amount of passengers in terms of market share. It's around like 80% or something like that in some years. It's very crazy. Yeah, that article is very misleading, Gian. It is misleading. Again, how Amtrak can go ahead and compete with airlines later on, that's again, I don't think Amtrak is going to be really much in the game in 2035. That's just my prediction. We'll see 15 years from now, but I don't think Amtrak is going to be so much in the game. Apart from maybe the Northeastern Corridor, the Midwest, and maybe some other parts of the Western United States. But as private rail transportation, as private passenger rail transportation continues to become more popular, but continues to become more in demand in the rest of the United States because of the Brightline example, and later on because of the Texas Central Railway example, they're going to be springing up more and more places. Again, Brightline has looked into saying, we're looking at Atlanta to Charlotte, okay? And I've seen, we've seen articles of commissioners and other politicians and bureaucrats from Atlanta and Charlotte going ahead and having talks with Brightline and saying, hey, what's the possibility that we can have something over here similar to what you did in South Florida? They're looking at that. That's what we're trying to go ahead and build, to have safe, effective, and efficient systems to get that done. CTR Lee. Okay, so thank you. 38 Hong Kong dollars. I think that's about what, like $5 or $7 or so dollars. Thank you, buddy. That's pretty good. Thank you so much. He's saying, hey Demetrius, do you think there's a market in the U.S. for ultra luxury cruise trains like the Train Suite Shikishima in Japan? Absolutely. And we've seen that if you look, and especially in the Western United States. Okay, there are a lot of Amtrak trains that do very well with suites. And we've seen, like, even in Alaska, you guys saw the documentary for Alaska. Again, that's a cruise train. And the Alaskan company is on its own. Again, it's state funded, but they do very well. Okay? In terms of, versus Amtrak, they're a lot more efficient. And again, they do share both freight and passenger rail. Okay? Alaska Railroad does do both passenger and freight railroad. Again, at the Amtrak Surfliner. Again, you guys have so many examples, and that there are a lot of trains that do well. If we look at the Amtrak ridership, funny enough, even for things like the Silver Meteor and Silver Star and other long distance trains, a lot of it again is in between the 250 mile an hour, 250 mile and 400 mile range. Those are the highest amount of ridership. Okay, and then it starts to go down. But you see a little bit more of an uptick, like 10% of the ridership between 800 and 1,000 miles. Again, people like long-distance cruise trains here in the United States too. There is a market for that. However, it needs to be done right. That's what I think. So, and I do think we should do a video on that. Cruise trains in America, and bring up the Shikishima example. I'm sorry, Mr. X-Man, but I can't put that one on here. I support the man, but I'm trying to be as bipartisan as possible over here. I do understand. Okay, that's the only thing I can't do. We can't go ahead and start showing things from other channels. If it's related to the content, then absolutely. If he did say something that's in support of high-speed rail or whatnot, then that's fine. Or if the other guy did. Okay, you know what I'm saying. Speaking of the other guy, Democrat candidate for President Joe Biden seems to echo this idea, saying that he hopes the presence of a regionalized rail network will shift some small town flights to rail service. So I got this tweet over here, and this is not from Joe Biden. This is from his transportation advisor, John Pocari. He said this: one of the ways we can build back better, clearly, is with passenger rail. Amtrak has done remarkably well with the limited resources it has had. I wouldn't say remarkably well. It's done what it could. I mean, it survived. I wouldn't say it's done remarkably well in the slightest. They've survived. If you're in a small town or medium-sized city and you're looking at air service right now, the likelihood is that you're losing air service. Well, again, we do fund that with essential air service. It's funny enough, Trump got rid of EAS. He got rid of essential air service. So that's the funny part. Serving some of those city pairs through passenger rail is an economic lifeline for cities throughout the country, in the longer term in particular. Those are the kinds of discussions we should be having if we're talking about the need for connectivity 2 or 3 or 400 miles apart. We should reserve the really expensive and precious runway capacity for transcontinental flights to hubs, and international flights. And then, funny enough, the comments over here, get pretty hilarious. Of course, this always appears everywhere. Anytime anybody talks about trains. Forget the Cato Institute. They're not libertarians. They're fake. Lobetarians. But Will Biden do anything as much as he did during the Obama administration? Not much at all. I don't think so. I really do think, and we really do know, that the future is going to be with private rail passenger transportation. Private passenger rail transportation. That's what we see up in demand. That's what we see working. We've seen it work in Japan. We've seen it work in places like Hong Kong. We've seen it work in places, in other places in Europe. Again, look at Italy. That's another video I should be doing. I should be writing down these examples of what we should be doing. So we said cruise trains, and we said, private versus public. No, this pen doesn't work. Why do I have pens that don't work here? Cruise trains. And also private versus public. The Italy example. Because again, you look at Train Italia and Caltrain in Italy, and you see there's a difference. A lot more people in Italy, both tourists and native Italians there in Italy, prefer the privatized passenger rail system. They prefer Italia over Train Italia far more because it's more on time. B, the trains are more modern, and the system is a heck of a lot better in terms of on-time punctuality. It just makes sense. So that's why. It's true, Italy did invest in infrastructure. Now that does make sense. If the government can go ahead and invest in better infrastructure, like they do for roads, because the government goes ahead and funds road construction. If they can do that for rails, that would make perfect sense. Okay, but then they go ahead and say, well, if it's going to be privatized, and they're going to have to come up with the money, which makes no sense. But fine, we're seeing it in Florida. They're coming up with the money. They come up with they've come up with the bond money to go ahead and fund the Orlando to Cocoa extension. Okay, so there's definitely demand. There are definitely investors that want to build this. There needs to be less regulation to allow investors and to allow companies to go ahead and build and finance more of these systems. That's what's going to happen, and I really do think that's the best way to go. Yes, privatization is the future, Grambo, and that's. Again, you guys know me, that I am full on for doing that the right way. If you privatize it like the UK, you're going to have an issue. That's not privatization. That's a corporatocracy. Okay? That's BS. And again, Amtrak is trying to do some things to make themselves more like a company that's more efficient. Like they've introduced this next day travel booking feature, which they didn't have. The Amtrak website has been a mess for a while, but they have been cleaning up. So let's go. I've always hated these schedules. It makes sense, if you have, two brain cells to put together. But most people they look at this and this is a mess. They don't know. It's like, okay, well, it makes sense if you want to go from New York, which way is going, if it's going southbound, this is going northbound. Okay, you can go ahead and understand where it's going. Of course, the 19 goes, southbound and the 20 goes northbound. Okay, but for most normal people, that schedule doesn't make sense. So they have to find a way to go ahead and make it more user-friendly for people, okay? Not everyone is a rail fan. Not everyone is going to be able to read schedules. Again, back in the old days, in the golden age of, United States railway infrastructure, when we had the best railroads in the world, yeah, people could be able to read that. Again, not so much. So let's try this. I was messing around with the website. And again, the Amtrak website has gone a lot cleaner, a lot better, and a lot more user-friendly to go ahead and operate, okay? Again, we're not trying to do brain surgery over here. We're just trying to go ahead and train. So let's look in the comments, guys. Let's see if we can book a trip. Let's see how easy it is to book a round trip between point A and point B. So go ahead in the comments below. What do you want to see? Let's see if we can go ahead and book a fake trip to see how easy it is. All right, FR saying New York City to Boston, Bakersfield to Sacramento, DC to Chicago, New York to Chicago, New York to LA station. We're seeing a lot more for New York. So New York to where? Where are we going, guys? New York to Burlington, Vermont. New York to all right, going once, going twice. I'm just gonna pick a random one over here, and it's New York to Chicago. Okay, we're doing New York to Chicago over here. All right, so let's go ahead and put in New York Penn Station. We're going over to Chicago Union Station. All right, and let's go ahead and visit our families for Thanksgiving. We're going to go ahead in Chicago in the middle of the Civil War here and see what's going on. That's going to be funny. Let's see if we can find something on for the week. Get there on Sunday and get back on. See, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, there we are. Sunday return date. There we are. Okay, let's try that. Let's see if we can find trains. Let's see what we get. No trips on your requested date. Next travel date is Monday, November the 30th. No trains and buses are scheduled on your requested travel date. You see, it's exactly what we're talking about over here in this article here. No trips on your requested date. So you have to go past Thanksgiving. All right, let's try something else. Let's go to the West Coast, Los Angeles to Bakersfield. Let's do that. Angeles Union Station, LAX to Bakersfield. Let's go ahead and visit the people over there. Oh, we're getting some trains. All right, so we can get something that leaves November the 22nd. Let's go for a train that's completely empty. Let's go this one that's 0% full. And this is the other thing, you know, it always leaves at odd times at night. Oh, this is a connecting bus. Departs at 1 a.m. You know, that's the thing, guys. You know, people don't really want to, you know, go on that, and they have to leave at, you know, 5 o'clock in the morning or 1 a.m. in the morning. Let's try to get something. Here we go. 9:25, 40% full. That makes sense. Wives there. Okay, so let's go coach. Add that to the cart. And then mixed service between Bakersfield. Wait a second. Okay, hold on. Yeah, these are all connecting buses. Okay, that's weird. Is it just the bus? Am I just taking a bus there and then coming back on a mixed service? See, this is what I'm talking about, guys. There's no train. Okay, yeah, I should have known that. There is no train that goes from LAX to Bakersfield, so you got to take a bus. Again, let's try one more thing. We're 9:51 over here. Let's try Bakersfield to Sacramento. Let's try something else. Let's try something we know. Let's try something that's known. New York Penn to Boston. Okay, and we'll find stuff all the time. That's easy. But let's see how easy it is. I just want to pretend I'm booking a trip. Okay. So let's take the Acela. It leaves at 12:05. Okay, we'll take let's take first class. Let's treat ourselves here to first class, and then we'll go ahead and come back on Sunday the 29th on Acela. And you know, maybe I'm gonna save a little bit over here, or you know what? I'm just gonna take the slow way back. I'm gonna take it nice and easy. We're gonna go ahead and take the Northeast Regional. Okay. Now what? Okay, I guess I gotta press continue. I'm just like, you know, it should just happen automatically. Alright, so then it asks you for details and whatnot. I'm not gonna go ahead and put that in. But we're looking at $360. If you guys can see it here. I'm sorry you can't see it, but trust me, over here it's $360, not including tax, tip, delivery, but that's what it is. Okay, so now you see how Amtrak's website, you know, it's a little better, it's a little easier to get there. It still needs to get itself, you know, just to make itself just a little bit user-friendly, a little bit more user-friendly. So let's go over, this is the last article over here, guys. Let's look at the Avalia. Let's go ahead and see what is on the Avalia. So we got this video over here of the new Acela interior preview. This is new, by the way. This is about like from 4 days ago or so. This will give me a break to go ahead and drink more.
I'm Caroline Decker, Vice President of Amtrak's Northeast Corridor Service Line. I'm delighted to offer a preview of the new state-of-the-art high-speed Acela fleet. From reliable onboard Wi-Fi to enhance your digital experience to contactless features and technology.
Notice they put contactless later.
Transform the train travel experience on Amtrak's Northeast Corridor. Amtrak is committed to delivering the exceptional Acela experience our customers expect.
Those trains look fantastic, by the way.
Acela trains will feature contactless storage options for luggage,
Contactless.
seating with individual access to personal outlets and USB ports, plus winged headrests to provide more comfort and separation.
It's very similar to Brightline.
Our new train sets have been efficiently designed to use 40% less energy per passenger and feature sustainable components, including seating made out of recycled leather. For added comfort and safety, an advanced reservation system will also allow customers to reserve seats prior to departure.
I hope it's a lot better than what it is right now.
Be designated a seat at the time of payment and have the option to change their seat using an interactive car and seat map on the Amtrak app or Amtrak.
See, when you this is the thing I'm talking about. When I'm booking a flight, I get to pick the seat before I go ahead and, you know, for most of the time, I go ahead and pick a seat or something like that on Google Flights or, you know, any of these websites, and go ahead and, you know, pick a seat and see how much it is afterwards before putting in my information.
Contactless amenities will include spacious restrooms with touch-free features and automatic door access.
That's good.
What would train travel be?
It's very much like Brightline.
To enjoy some delicious refreshments. The new Acela Cafe cars will offer greater selection and convenient self-service options. And after you've refueled, we'll ask you to join us in recycling your waste products. As part of our commitment to sustainability, half of the trash receptacles on
I agree, X-Char. It is a beautiful train.
designated for recycling. We don't yet know what the next several months will bring, but Amtrak is rising to meet the new challenges we are all facing. And we are committed to providing a safe, comfortable, and convenient travel.
He's got to spray down the whole entire
Whether you're
train.
traveling for work, a family vacation, or simply taking a day to get away, we hope you will choose Acela to meet your travel needs. Join us to experience the future of
Here's the
Amtrak
world
travel.
reopening.
All aboard.
Oh, well, I mean, it doesn't have a steam whistle, so it can't go. It'll just go or something, I don't know, or something like that. But anyway, this is cool, guys. I mean, I do like it. It's very, very similar to Brightline. Again, this is pretty cool. Look at this. You know, the screens that it has over here. You know clearly where you're going. The kitchen. We did look. Brightline will be having like a snack car for the Orlando route. I don't know if exactly what it's going to look like, but I mean, it's going to look cool. Oh, this is going to be fun for the train sims coming up. This is going to be fun. Which I probably should do that on this channel. Probably go ahead and, you know, do some train sim or, you know, some other things, something like that. We'll do some train related games. We'll live stream that. You know, watching the Civil War or something later on. This is pretty cool, though. I do like this. Again, very similar to Brightline in terms of the design scheme. In terms of the colors, that's very much that's very new for Amtrak. This orange color and whatnot. Well, this is like kind of like the older color. No, this is new. I think this is new. All right. Well, this is pretty good, guys. Yeah, doing train sim would be great. Yeah. All right. So I got a lot of looks like there's a lot of demand for me to do train sim. That's good. I don't know what the sound of the horn is going to be like. I probably should have gone over because I know, well, they only had the trains. They were towing them along the lines because, again, there's no catenaries over from where they're made and, you know, coming over here. But maybe they'll bring some over to the Beach Grove. I don't know. Train sim, please, yeah. Civil War between rail, car, and plane, yeah. Contactless Civil War, guys. You know, the 556 will just contactless you. It will be a bloodless war. You know, this blood just carries viruses. All right, guys, let's go ahead. It's 9:58. Let's take like 10 minutes of questions and call it a night. We got still 60 people up here. This is great, guys. All right. Someone's asking, how's Honolulu Rail going so far? I haven't kept up with that, to be honest. So that's another thing I got to go ahead and look at. Let's add that to the list. And again, guys, I try to have the answers for everything. I try to be, you know, the great on all-knowing, but, you know, again, nobody is the great and all-knowings, you know, except for the Almighty himself. But I try to look up everything, and I try to get ahead and research everything that I can and corroborate all the information that I put on there before putting it on. All right, so let's look up the Honolulu Railway, because I know when I was looking at it, they were constructing it. If you can't hear the horn, then I'm sorry. Cyber warfare between car, rail, and air. Yeah, it's Cyberpunk 2077, but delayed. Which is another game that I really want to do for the second channel, guys, because I've been waiting for that game for like 10 freaking years. You don't know everything, but I'm close. Yeah, exactly. I don't know everything, but I know 99.9% of everything. Okay, look at the trains itself, the actual new trains itself for Pikes Peak. Okay. We'll take a look at that. Let me put that down over here for Pikes Peak as well, because that's another one that... thank you for recommending that, Axcar, because that was good to look at. What's going on with Texas HSR? We're going to have a newer episode for Texas to go ahead and update that. The same thing for Brightline. And well, we've been doing a lot of Brightline, but again, you know, hey, I'm a Floridian, you know, transplant in Indiana. I'm still always going to be a Floridian, so I mean, I'm always going to be biased of Brightline. But then again, everybody else is also biased against Brightline because we know that's the best that of chances that we got so far in bringing real modern passenger rail transportation. Of course. Thank you. Thank you, Xcar. Do you think high-speed rail would work here in South Carolina? I do think so. Especially connecting between Georgia. Again, it's going to be more toward the western part of the state. But definitely over toward the eastern part, there could be some connections there. Can the current Acela trains be pulled by a diesel locomotive with a power unit? Yes, that's what they do when they bring them over. They pull them with a diesel unit if they do bring them into the yard. Actually, there are some some of the old Talga units from the Washington system that they still have over there in Amtrak Beech Grove, just down south of me. Just gotta go check that. Yeah, the barking you hear in the background is Leia, Princess Leia, the terrier that gets all worked up. Yeah, they were towed to the factory. Alright, I will link to the second channel, guys. I'll put it up in the comments once I get something up there. Again, I don't want to promise something and then not do it, as I've been doing, unfortunately. But once I get a video up there, I will go ahead and link to it over in the comments. Well, not the comments, but the community chat. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, they did purchase new Talgo units. The old Talgo units are there, so they're just sitting there right now. What do you think about the Ameristar rail proposal? I think it's just a lot what they're talking about right now. I don't take it seriously until maybe I can talk with some of them, but I do think it's a good idea for the Northeast Corridor. Again, you know, there's a lot of proposals, and there's been a lot of proposals between the last several decades, but we'll see. We did talk about it first. We may die first. Yeah, thanks, Holly. How long until high-speed rail is nationwide? Don't try to go ahead and push for nationwide high-speed rail, because that's where everybody go ahead and get distracted. Everybody gets distracted by that. Let's put it that way. Everybody gets distracted by going ahead and seeing these, you know, fantastic maps of constructing a nationwide high-speed rail system. But between that map and behind that map, there's really no substance into how that system is going to be built, where these parts are going to be. Oh, again, there are like some parts where it says, well, this is going to be built by 2025 or 2035, etc., etc. But there's really no how that's going to be built, either by private companies or by the government or by other entities. Again, there's really no other entities, but I'm just saying. Having that sort of system, again, you need a very centralized government, sort of similar to China. I think somebody has went ahead and talked about that. And again, there's a lot behind the Chinese system, and that's why I really don't talk about it, because it's a really a very unique system in terms of their funding, in terms of their debt allocation, because the Chinese system is very much into debt. They just went ahead and just pushed everything into there to just go ahead and make it. There's a lot of political reasons as to why they built some stations and where they built some stations. Again, there's a lot I'm not going to get into. Stuff for YouTube that we shouldn't get into. I don't know why you're trying to tell people to quiet down over here. Let's try to be nice here, guys. Let's calm down a bit. Okay. Do you know Amtrak is proposing a new station in Nashville? Is that Nashville, Tennessee? That'll be good. Anything is possible when you're a commie, even having no food. That's right. What would Brightline charge for a New York to DC trip? That's even assuming they would run that line. I don't think even Brightline wouldn't think of doing that. Again, that's Amtrak's territory. I would probably suspect maybe a similar price of what what Amtrak is charging. Let's see what time it is. 10:04. Let's take a couple more comments. Yeah, okay, so Holly went ahead and put in the email, so arcsecretary1@gmail.com. If you guys have any proposals or any interesting news articles or anything interesting to put into there, go ahead and email that, and I'll go ahead and check it out and see if it's, something we could go ahead and talk about and discuss on the channel. CTR Lee is asking, I was discussing the situation of Chinese high-speed rail with my friends last night, and they agree that some routes are ideal or indeed built with political motivations. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Like the one to Xinjiang and the one to Hong Kong as well. Again, those are definitely political motivations. Especially the one to Xinjiang, where they have they have the concentration camp there. Have you seen Canadian National Heritage Units? No, I have not. Isn't Canada Pacific? They're canceling their Christmas train this year, which is pretty sad. I like seeing the pictures of that. I heard that in Trains magazine. That was pretty sad. What will it take for Amtrak to return to Canada? It would take a lot from Via Rail as well to go ahead and... I think they do run some trains over to... I believe to Toronto. I think if they still are. I don't quite remember though. But I do think they still run some trains. But again, that's a lot of collaboration with Via Rail in order to get that going. For like a full Amtrak route through there or something like that. I'm not quite sure. Between 61 cents and 89 cents a mile is what Brightline charges for its train route in Florida. That would be about correct. Again, we don't know what it's going to charge for Orlando as of yet. Oh, I think they did come out with the pricing. I don't quite remember right now. Yeah, we shouldn't have any CRC train sets over here in the United States. That should be banned. Again, China does the same thing. They do the same thing to us. They ban our products, or they put a complete tariff or import ban on our products. So why not do the same thing to them? They're not playing by the rules. Yeah, Michael, I think you're correct on that. The prices are less on Brightline. They really go ahead and they don't try to do like a set price per mile. They mostly do it in terms of, they factor a lot of things. In terms of convenience, how much would it cost to drive there? How much are you getting out of the ticket? There's a lot more that goes into there, and it's not really mathematic. They don't have a set formula, that X plus Y plus, Z times, Q or something else will equal the ticket price, times X amount of miles. They don't have that. Okay, so we have some clarification. So California high-speed rail will be 110 miles an hour while on the shared Caltrain corridor, but the rest of the system there will no grade at crossings. No grade crossings. Again, having shared systems, this is the problem with California. They're not doing this right, and I can see why so many people are ticked off and they're going to vote no on this proposal. Again, it would be nice, I would probably vote yes, but we already know California's not going to do it right. You can say vote yes to increase California's intelligence by 10 points and re-roll on that, but it's not going to happen. We would have to get companies to bring back factories that they've sent overseas. Absolutely. And I think more incentives with that. And that's what, really the Trump administration is trying to do. There's a lot of people that do not trust the Biden administration to do that, especially when it's come to light all these emails coming out of the laptop from hell. I'm not going to talk more about that, but you know what I'm saying here. Looking at the comments over here. Sharing is caring, but for rail, nope. Yeah, sharing for rail is dangerous, guys. And that's why the Japanese and most other systems around the world, including the French and whatnot, just some places, they go ahead and they separate train travel. You cannot have faster train travel allocated on the same system as slower trains. You're asking for trouble. Emails are fake news. Never happened. Could California abandon the high-speed rail? Again, that's very improbable that they would. They've already started construction. Now, could they absolutely go ahead and abandon it? Absolutely. It would be absolute terrible, nightmarish press that they would get from that. I don't think they're going to abandon it. I would say they have more of a possibility of it just not getting to Los Angeles ever. It will just go ahead and maybe stay in the Bakersfield. And they're going to get it to San Francisco. There's no doubt about it. They'll get it to Sacramento and San Francisco. But getting it and completing it all the way down to Los Angeles, at this point, the chances on that are getting slimmer and slimmer. What is the best way to get from New York to Chicago? Take a plane. It's a little bit too far for... Even if we had high-speed rail from New York to Chicago, that's about 700 or so miles. It's a lot easier to take a plane. That's when planes make sense. All right, guys. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and cancel it right... Or we're going to, get settled down to the station right here. It's 10:10 p.m. I think we've had a good live stream so far. We're still at 56 concurrent viewers. For you guys still staying on, you guys are fantastic. You guys are awesome. Go ahead and like this video before the NIMBYs go ahead and get to it and dislike it. The comment section has been fantastic. You guys have been fantastic and awesome in the chat. Fantastic questions. Thanks for playing along, and thanks for going ahead and giving information and sharing it, guys. Again, this is a club, guys. We're trying to go ahead and share information and be more of a community. Thank you, everyone. All right. So again, if you're not subscribed, I don't know why you're watching this if you're not subscribed, but then again, if you are and you're not subscribed, be sure you subscribe. Make sure that the bell icon is selected, and if you want to support us further, we have us on Patreon. We're going ahead and putting more on Patreon, and we're getting our stuff set out, and everything else. All right, so thank you all for being on board and being a part of this amazing ride. Stay tuned, guys. It's going to be a bumpy ride tomorrow, okay? So just, if you pray tomorrow. Pray for our country. Yeah, we do the right decision. And again, I've said my piece. If you haven't voted yet and you're going to vote tomorrow, just think about it, okay? I'm not telling who to vote for, and this time around, well, I know who I'm voting for. I already voted. I already early voted, so I already know who I'm voting for. You guys kind of know already, so that's it. We're going to call it a night. Have a good night. Thank you for riding. Stay safe, and stay buckled up. We'll keep you all updated. Take care. Next time.